Who are some potential second round offensive skill impact players to watch at the NFL Combine that will help fantasy football in 2023? It's time to break it down right here and right now as we look at the second round of my mock draft. Only on Locked On Fantasy Football.
Are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. Check us out there on the site. Everything you need to know for the NFL Combine. The workouts are starting to happen in Indianapolis. So all the results coming in and being tracked there at sportingnews.com, as well as looking at positional analyses and specific players, what they might do, and keeping track of the standout performers in terms of 40 times agility drills and stock rising, stock falling. So we're your one-stop shop there for the Combine. I'll have another mock draft coming out of the Combine once we reset the draft board a little bit. I do have a new big board with the top 125 players and then the best players by position you can check out at sportingnews.com. Here, we're going to continue to break down the second round of my mock draft. So we did the first round. I did a two-round mock. This is the first two-round mock of the year, right in time for the Combine. So these are the players right now on the radar to go within the top 64 picks from that 33 to 64 range. So we will talk about that. Quite a few offensive skill players to consider here outside of the first round. So we'll actually break down on today's show 10 players that I have going from offensive skill positions. That's quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends that can make a difference here for their teams and have, of course, based on their draft pedigree, some good fantasy football value, immediate impact potential as rookies here, at least short term, maybe some even long term that we're looking at here. So we will get into that here. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of the NFL. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. We're free and available to you on all platforms. All right, let's dive right in, and we'll start with the 34 overall pick. That belongs to the Houston Texans. We know they picked at number 2 and number 12. They're in the draft as we speak. At number 2, I had them taking a quarterback that isn't Bryce Young, assuming Bryce Young is going to go number 1. C.J. Stroud still looking like the number 2 quarterback on the board. So I had the Texans taking C.J. Stroud to replace Davis Mills in the first round. And then at number 12, get a little bit of help for him as Brandon Cooks is a free agent, really free agent in his mind. He's going to be traded here. I think they're going to move on from Brandon Cooks. Yet again, traded, sets a record for being traded as a very good player here. So he just doesn't want to be in Houston. It's rebuild. So I had them taking Jordan Addison there, number 12, out of USC via Pittsburgh. The transfer. So a lot of good stuff there early to help that Texans offense under DeMeco Ryans, their head coach, and their former 49ers assistant offense coordinator, Bobby Slowick. So here, what do the 49ers have that the Texans don't? That impact, reliable, healthy, durable, for the most part, tight end. And George Kittle, I know Kittle has been banged up here and there, but when Kittle's on the field, he's making big plays and a big impact in the blocking and receiving game. Dalton Kincaid out of Utah, he's the number 2 tight end on the board. He has some first-round potential here as well. Michael Mayer of Notre Dame is the number 1 guy. I had Mayer going to the Panthers, so the Texans need some help here. Jordan Akins and O.J. Howard are free agents. Brevin Jordan can't stay healthy. He's not much other than an athletic guy that is not too much as a blocker. And you have Keegan Quinterano. He's the other back that you look at, or tight end there. That's more of an H-back type there for the Texans. So I think when you look at it, this Texans team might use some more 2 tight end sets or involve those players. We've seen with Slowick, they've got different tight ends that have worked there with Kittle, namely Ross Dwelly in certain situations. So when you look at that, I think the Texans could go in that direction. Jordan, they might not be sold on here with the new coaching staff, so they may want an alpha there. So Kittle, Kincaid, there's some comparisons, possibilities there that they can that direction. The Texans have not really had reliable tight ends. We know that over the years for the most part. They had at one point CJ Fedorowicz, remember him? He was one pretty good overall tight end for them. Didn't really light it up as a pass catcher. We thought that maybe Jordan Akins might be the guy. They had some options there, but we just have not seen anything consistent from them at all from that position as a fantasy or reality asset. So Kincaid can definitely change that, especially if he comes in with a new quarterback. CJ Stroud, the rookie, would lean on him. It doesn't matter which rookie. Tight ends are the security blanket. You'd have Addison also, a receiver of that caliber, or if Cook stays there to help Kincaid get open as well. So the Texans need to be in the market for a tight end. They could be in play for Mayer at number 12, should he be on the board still there in the first round. So a lot of good stuff to look at for the Texans. It usually takes 2 years, really 1 year under the belt, and then getting a little bit more experience that the second year to really emerge as a quality, reliable receiving tight end. But Kincaid has the athleticism. He steps in the right spot the way that Mayer might. He has immediate value here. At number 38, this seems like a little bit of a weird thing to go with here for the Colts. At 36, I should say. 38, get a little ahead of myself. The Seahawks are waiting there at 38. They'll also take a wide receiver in my mock. But the Colts are going to start that with Kayshon Boutte from LSU. LSU, we know, has a great pedigree of receivers, namely we had with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. Then we transitioned to Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall Jr., still trying to figure things out with the Panthers. But Kayshon Boutte is the next guy in that list. And now you would say, okay, the Colts have Michael Pittman Jr., they have Alec Pierce, but Paris Campbell's a free agent. They need to get a guy who's versatile, can play inside, outside the slot, the way that Pittman can in the big slot. So Kayshon Boutte would be great. He can line up everywhere. He's tough, quick, can deliver as an inside receiver for them. But keep in mind, the Colts also in the market for a new quarterback. I had them taking Anthony Richardson of Florida, so you get him another weapon here. Maybe go to more 11 personnel with 3 wide receivers versus working in 2 tight ends. We've seen Shane Steichen with the Chargers and get some explosive play downfield from the receivers. We've seen that in Philadelphia with the grouping of A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and either Quez Watkins or someone else making plays for the Eagles. So they have that third target is key here. The Colts are okay at tight end. They have some upside guys in Kylan Granson and Jelani Woods, but nothing super dominant or special there. Mo Cox also in that mix. But when you look at Kayshon Boutte, he can give them that key third target with Pittman and Pierce, playing in the passing game, working off Taylor in the running game, play action shots downfield. So Kayshon Boutte and a wide receiver really in general being a good target for the Colts at some point in this draft with Campbell's unsigned status. All right, 38, we'll get to 38 now. It's the Seahawks, and I have them taking a wide receiver. Now, they got to think about the future. Tyler Lockett probably on the cusp of slowing down. He continues to have big seasons, but he's getting a little older. He's got a lot of wear. He's played a lot receiver. He's played a lot in the return game. So they have to get someone who can maybe help them transition from Lockett here sooner rather than later. And also be an asset right now as a bit of a gadget player, can move around, get him an open field. Another just threat overall for the Seahawks offense that's a little bit better than, say, a Marquise Goodwin, where Goodwin is a little bit older. You get someone like that that can cause some havoc in the slot if needed. Lockett has been playing more outside with DK Metcalf of late. So, again, the guy that I have is North Carolina's Josh Downs. He's kind of that player. Remember, the Seahawks once had a big year when they won the Super Bowl out of former Vikings first-round pick Percy Harvin. So, Seahawks like those type of players, and it's a little different style of offense as they transition from Darrell Bevel all the way now to Shane Waldron. But when you look at the Seahawks, I think Downs could have a key impact here for whoever's at quarterback. He can have outlet passes, short catches there. He can be an extension of Kevin Walker, who's a decent receiver, but they need a little bit of help at that position. So Downs can help in that capacity as well as an outlet. And if it's me, a guy that they get an open field and try to make big plays and maybe eventually take over for Lockett once he ages out a little bit and maybe gets too expensive for the Seahawks. So all around, that's a good pick for them at number 38 overall. There we have it. Those are the first 3 offensive skill picks that I have in my latest mock draft for Sporting News, the second round of that. If you missed the first round, check it out. It's up there on our archives here on Locked On Fantasy Football, as the previous show. So you don't have to look too far to find that program. And we do have to, however, tell you that we're excited about being partnered up with FanDuel. It is amazing to have such a great sports book on board here with the Locked On Network. We know the NFL is in a lull here. We've got some alternative football leagues there, the XFL, USFL coming here. But it's also the midway point of the NBA season. We just saw Kevin Durant in action right here in town for the Hornets. So exciting to see him in action. He's soon going to play his home game for Phoenix. So it's real. Kevin Durant is in the Suns uniform, so that's exciting. You've got other teams, Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, that combination. You've got other teams positioning for the playoffs, Jason Tatum and the Celtics. A lot of NBA exciting action there as we move away from the NFL for a little while as we get ready for the draft. The midway point is here. It's the perfect time to download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. It's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, it's super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. A lot of good three-point shooting and displays. We've seen that with Dame Lillard here with the big game for Portland. So all kinds of ways you can win. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same-game parlay. So don't miss out on the chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, NBA, and the Locked On Network. All right, it is time to finish the show. Look at more of these players that I have going in the second round of my current mock draft, Combine Edition for Sporting News. And let's look at the Raiders here at number 39 overall, still staying in the top 40 picks. I've been taking Zay Flowers, not to be confused with Zay Jones, the former Raider who ended up with the Jaguars, and now is their number 2 receiver with Christian Kirk. But the Raiders missed Zay. They had some moments with him. He was pretty good. And Mac Hollins was okay, but only showed flashes. He's a free agent. Keelan Cole, kind of an inside-outside guy with some return game pop. Kind of redundant with the presence of Hunter Renfrow there. So he's a free agent. So they need some help at receiver to help Hunter Renfrow, to help Devontae Adams, a guy that can go inside, outside a little bit more, but maybe handle that number 2 outside role more consistently. So Zay Flowers, a little smaller guy, but makes big plays. He's got some speed and quickness and versatility, his route running. So he's a guy that definitely can help the Raiders overall and improve the strength of that passing game. They just need that third weapon beyond having the 2 wideouts and Darren Waller there. So really to build on it, Waller's getting a little bit older and less effective. So I think you have to think pivoting to wide receiver here. So that would be attractive. Say if they get Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if they'd have to give up this pick. They'd probably have to give up the first rounder. But they want to keep this pick to try to get some more wide receiver help in the situation here. So as it stands now, the Raiders have to think best player available in most cases for defense. But here I think it makes sense to go after Flowers in this deep wide receiver class with the wheelhouse of the number 39 overall pick. I have the next wide receiver going off the board at 42 to the Titans. It's Rashee Rice here out of SMU, the Mustang. They need a complimentary receiver to trail on Burks. They used the first rounder on Burks last year with the pick they got in the A.J. Brown deal with the Eagles. They need help over it. They can't just go Nick Westbrook-Akine and some of these other guys that they have complimenting one. Burks here, Chigakonkwo has some problems at tight end. The Titans should also be in the market for a tight end to help them a little bit. But Rashee Rice, big target, 6'2", be on the outside, uses strength. So maybe change the course of his passing game a little bit here for the Titans. And the new offense coordinator promoted Tim Kelly. He was with the Texans just a couple of years ago. So they like those big, strong receivers to make some plays here. So Rashee Rice would be in a really good spot here playing off Burks and having a shot to be very productive. The Titans need a passing game, whether it's Malik Willis or Ryan Taylor or someone else. But I can see Rashee Rice with this size, 6'2", being a good fit for the Titans, especially with his toughness as well. At number 46 on the board, I have the Packers going back to tight end, taking Darnell Washington out of Georgia. So another rising dude, big, strong. He could have the frame of Mercedes Lewis, who's a free agent. He's been a venerable blocker for all these years. Robert Tonyan is also a free agent. They don't have Randall Cobb potentially returning here, especially if there's no Aaron Rodgers and they're not forced to do that. They need to get security blanket help, impact player help, some of his upside here at tight end. So Darnell Washington out of Georgia makes a lot of sense. Big dude, again, can block pretty well. Natural, we know that with the running game success they had in Athens. So getting him to Green Bay would be somewhat special and be involved right away. And again, makes sense as a positional need based on what they could lose there in Green Bay. So I like Washington a lot. I think he can put together his raw talent with the right coaching. I think Matt LaFleur and his coaching staff is ideal for Washington to bring him in. So again, the Packers, any of these teams that I mentioned here, taking a tight end, talked about taking the Dalton Kincaid to the Texans and the Packers, they would also be in play for Michael Mayer should he slip a little bit in the first round. So something to think about, but another element that the Packers can restore to their offense. They really haven't had a consistent threat. That's been one thing over the years, whether it's been Bubba Franks in 2000, he was a first rounder, Jermichael Finley. They've always had somebody there, even the Jimmy Graham years, where it can be effective. So whether it's Rodgers or not, going to Jordan Love, I think they need to have a key tight end there, and Washington could be the guy. Finally, the last pick I'll talk about in this segment here that I have going at 52, I have a Devin Chain from Texas A&M going to the Dolphins, a bit of a scat back, versatile. I mean, right now, the Dolphins are navigating through Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. being free agents. Myles Gaskin has been relatively disappointing for the new offensive coaching staff and Mike McDaniel. So get Devin Chain into the mix. He's a very good overall guy. He's a good pass catcher, change of pace. You get him in. I think he's a lot like Elijah Mitchell, who we know the 49ers drafted while Mike McDaniel was there, and he was pretty effective before he had some durability issues. But I do like a Chain being a little bit sturdier here, very productive, can get involved in the passing game, something that they don't have consistently from Mostert and Wilson. And again, maybe just a quick plug-and-play replacement, but as a second-round pick, a little bit more upside than that versus a late rounder. So that's the fourth pick here that I have in this segment, 39, 42, 46, and 52 from the second round of my mock draft. There's three more players from the offensive skill side I have going there through the first 64 picks, and we'll get into that for you in our final segment here on Locked On Fantasy Football. Don't forget to check out Locked On NFL Draft. Good stuff there, breaking down the combine and a lot more of these guys. And we're going to bring it to you. We're crossing over there. Scouting report, advanced scouting for fantasy football. But check out Locked On NFL Draft here that work with the latest there from the combine and the analysis you need to know there in the convenient podcast listening form. All right, it is time to close the show here on Locked On Fantasy Football. And as we look at the second to last day of the work week, and I have the Lions on the clock here at number 56. That's where they're picking. And they need a tight end. So Luke Musgrave is the guy I have going to the Lions here. Again, they traded T.J. Hawkinson to the Vikings in the middle of last season. A bit of a surprise that A, they moved Hawkinson. B, they moved him inside the division. And C, was he key to maybe getting them in the playoffs, especially with Jameson Williams needing time to get healthy there, the number 12 overall pick of wide receiver from Alabama in the 22 draft. So that was a real question mark there. But again, Lions need some offensive help. If they use those first two picks on defense, they're to maybe help their secondary and edge pass rush. They're to complement Aiden Hutchinson and Jeffrey Okudah. Then you look at, okay, we can go for offensive skill here to help Jared Goff. They need a replacement tight end. Makes a lot of sense here. They do like some of what they have at tight end now, but this could be a game changer. We'll get Luke Musgrave here. So 56 is where I have him going. So this, again, makes you think about a team that could be interested in Mayer in the first round. I think it'll be really hard to stop this Lions offense. They've got a healthy Williams, athletic Musgrave in the mix with Amon-Ra St. Brown working the slot. It's going to be really hard to defend them, especially if you involve DeAndre Swift out of the backfield well in the passing game. So I do like the Lions at some point addressing tight end. Might as well do it here with a good value of Musgrave in round two. I had the Giants getting their wide receiver here. They didn't kind of land it in the right spot in the first round, but here they can get him in Jalin Hyatt. So interesting combo of picks here that will end on. Jalin Hyatt is one of them out of the Tennessee Volunteers, big playmaker for their downfield passing game under Josh Heupel. So the Giants need that number one receiver. Maybe Hyatt can be that guy. He can be a bit of a T. Higgins type, wearing orange from college as well to help the Giants. So that could be good development for them, especially they do have Isaiah Hodgins back, and they were pleased a little bit what he can do, but he's a complimentary receiver. Sterling Shepard is a free agent. You got Darius Slayton. We know they're long gone on one Kadarius Toney. You have a Kenny Galladay in the doghouse and probably out of here. So Jalin Hyatt can make some big plays, be a number one here, presuming it's a Daniel Jones somehow re-signed with a franchise tag or a long-term deal here. So do like Jalin Hyatt as that pick there for the Giants. At number 58, should they not go the wide receiver route with the right value in the first round? And picking too late to get one of the real top receivers, or maybe Jackson Smith and Jigba is not their pick there. So if not, then you go for the Giants here in round 2 to make that move. So we go from Hyatt to Hooker. That's Hendon Hooker. That's the quarterback for Jalin Hyatt in college at Tennessee. So, yeah, this is a bit of a surprise maybe to some, but I think the value of Hooker is just that high where you can push the ball downfield. I think he fits a lot of systems well. I think he fits a Rams, 49ers style, Mike LaFleur, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and adjusted Matt LaFleur type of offense. And they have Thomas Brown leading that offense with Carolina. Frank Reich has learned, okay, you need to get a mobile quarterback to be a little bit more effective. We're not going to recycle veterans here potentially. And if we get a veteran, getting a second-round pick on a quarterback is a reasonable investment here. We saw how it paid off big time for the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. Hendon Hooker can move around, has a big arm, had a big breakout season, was a Heisman candidate until he got hurt really late in the season. 62 overall is where I haven't gone to where the Panthers are picking. This is a pick that they acquired in the Christian McCaffrey trade with the 49ers. So that would be quite a pick here for the Panthers if they go there with Hooker and try to get a little bit more upside. Matt Corral just didn't do it for them last year. They got to move on. They got to take their shot at a transcendent potential quarterback. Hooker has great upside here. I'd like to see what he can do with some of their weapons. So if you get Hooker and Mayer there, all of a sudden the Panthers are in business with DJ Moore and what they do offensively, Thomas Brown calling the plays with the offensive-minded Frank Reich as head coach. So all kinds of good stuff there for the Panthers' options at quarterback. But I think much like the Colts, they need to get out of the cycle, recycle veteran quarterbacks, bridge options, and just take a chance at a rookie who could transcend and deliver. So there you have it. There's a look at the offensive skill players that I have going in the second round of my mock draft. For my complete second round mock draft, go to sportingnews.com with all the players taken there. But yeah, we want to focus on those 10 players. Just let you know that these are guys to watch, think about as you're watching the combine, whether they're working out or not, that these guys can really have impact at those positions. So covered a good chunk, again, of quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, and running back in this segment here. Again, check out the first round, put it all together, and to really get a comprehensive look at those offensive skill players out of the 2023 NFL Draft. Thanks for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Again, we'll close the week looking at more combine talk and seeing what's coming out of there. I'll make your second listen Locked On NFL Draft. Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez provide in-depth analysis of the biggest NFL draft prospects with deep dives and sleepers and hidden gems that can change your favorite NFL franchise. Find Locked On NFL Draft wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. For Locked On Fantasy Football, this has been Vinnie Iyer. Have a great rest of your day. We'll check you out with more combine talk with our next show.